The year was 2008. The world was teetering on the edge of a financial collapse. In America, millions had lost their homes, jobs, and retirement savings almost overnight. Banks were closing, the stock market was plummeting, and the U.S. economy was bleeding out. That was when the government decided to do something unprecedented. They sent money directly to the people. For many Americans, it arrived as a surprise, a check in the mail, a deposit in their bank account. For some, it was just a few $100s. But for others, it was the difference between survival and despair. This is the story of the stimulus check, how it began, what it meant, and how it reshaped American lives forever. Before the term stimulus check became part of everyday vocabulary, the concept had already been used quietly and experimentally. In 2001, following the dot-com crash, President George W. Bush authorized a tax rebate of $300 to $600 per taxpayer. It was a short-term fix meant to encourage spending. But it wasn't until 2008 that the first true stimulus check became a nationwide economic tool. President Barack Obama, dealing with the fallout of the Great Recession, signed the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. Part of that act was the economic stimulus payment, a direct payment to millions of Americans to help keep the economy from collapsing. It worked to some extent. People used the checks to pay rent, buy groceries, keep the lights on, but they also saved them or used them to pay off debt. The effectiveness of the stimulus was debated by economists, but for the average family, it was a godsend. Fast forward to March 2020. The world stopped. COVID-19 swept across continents, shutting down entire countries. Businesses shuttered, schools closed, hospitals filled. And once again, the U.S. government turned to the one tool it knew could provide immediate relief: a stimulus check. This time, it wasn't just a few $100s. Under President Donald Trump, the CARES Act sent $1,200 to most American adults, plus $500 per child. It was a lifeline during lockdowns, a cushion against layoffs, a reassurance that even in chaos, something was still working. But not everyone received it smoothly. Some waited months. Others never got theirs. Homeless individuals, immigrants, the elderly. Many were left behind by technicalities or bureaucracy. Still, for those who did get it, the check often meant survival. Single mothers bought food. Laid-off workers paid rent. Small business owners kept the lights on for another month. Then came December 2020. A second round, $600 per person, was authorized. The political debates were fierce. Was it enough? Should it be more? Should stimulus even exist? When President Joe Biden took office in January 2021, he pushed through a third and final round, $1,400 per adult plus dependents. Combined with the earlier rounds, it brought the total stimulus received by some families to over $3,200 per adult. It was, by all accounts, the largest direct economic relief effort in American history. But how did people actually spend this money? Data from the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis showed that while some Americans spent their checks immediately on food, clothing, bills, many others saved them. Some used the money to invest. Others paid off crushing credit card debt. There were even stories of people using stimulus checks to start businesses, to buy laptops for their kids, online schooling, to get therapy, to escape abusive homes. For those on the edge, these checks weren't luxuries. They were lifelines. The stimulus didn't just help families. It helped the entire economy. Economists agree that consumer spending surged after each round of checks, softening the blow of the pandemic recession. But it also raised long-term questions. Could America afford this? The national debt ballooned. Critics argued that the checks encouraged laziness or created inflation. But supporters said the real problem wasn't the money. It was how fragile people's lives were to begin with. And now, a new idea was emerging from the ashes of the pandemic: universal basic income. If stimulus checks worked in a crisis, could they work all the time? In Stockton, California, a pilot program gave 125 people $500 a month. No strings attached, for 2 years. The result? Participants reported less anxiety, better job prospects, and improved well-being. Similar programs are now being tested in cities like Denver, Chicago, and Los Angeles. The pandemic changed how Americans view government support. What was once unthinkable, direct payment from the government to ordinary people, is now part of the national conversation. And yet, despite all the impact, confusion still lingers. Many still ask, how do I get a stimulus check? Who qualifies? Will there be another? The answers vary by program, income level, and political will. But here's the simple truth. Stimulus checks are designed to work in emergencies. They aren't permanent, but they are proof that when the government chooses to act quickly and decisively, it can change lives. So what's next? With inflation rising and interest rates climbing, another recession looms. Some lawmakers have proposed automatic stimulus triggers. If unemployment rises above a certain point, checks go out, no debate required. Others call for a permanent child tax credit or monthly income supplements for the working poor. Because if COVID taught us anything, it's that most Americans live closer to the edge than anyone imagined. And a single check, though small, can mean the difference between food and hunger, hope and despair. The story of the stimulus check isn't about money. It's about resilience. It's about how society chooses to protect its most vulnerable. How in the darkest moments, a lifeline can come in the form of a small envelope or a single deposit. And maybe, just maybe, it's about something even bigger. The belief that in a country built on opportunity, no one should fall so far they can't rise again. This is the legacy of the stimulus check. And the story isn't over.